So, good afternoon, good day to you, to everyone who is getting the course in bioethics. And now, second topic, which have been included to our syllabus called Specifics of Biomedical Ethics. We're gonna talk about genesis and historical stages in biomedical ethics, because the starting point and finally the contemporary results of the development of bioethics is actually the changes of points of view, which gonna be described during the second question, and also bioethics and its field as the structure which have been updated to the modern requests from their practice and for the modern requests from the social circumstances. So the first, and we're gonna talk about specifics of biomedical ethics, and such an agenda for our class present to you the main vision containing the biomedical ethics. Because first of all, we're gonna talk about the specifics. What does mean specifics? That's for us, first of all, is the essential parts of the biomedical ethics. Essentials which get in representations of the biomedical ethics and its main stream for the contemporary understanding of the field. Of course, these sort of specifics which we're going to talk about, they are also due to change, because the changing of the society are leading to the changing of the practice. As we all know, the biomedical ethics, as I have mentioned to you, it's actually the result of struggling and the result of the understanding of the morality and moral principles which we have right now at the practice. As I have mentioned to you at the previous classes, we will introduce the new word for you, which is genesis, because genesis represents the historical stages and the way how these changes have been done in the history of biomedical ethics. The main aspects of such a genesis and historical stages will, of course, connect with your previous knowledge from the first year of education and from the understanding which we get from the history of medicine. Because such a thing as the historical process, getting a background for the social incoherence and social implementing to the ideas of the changing world. And partially biomedical ethics, of course, is the result of such a transition, the result of such a changes. Because such a historical changing, such a genesis will be the strategic part for the understanding the ideas which we're gonna talk when we will come to the practical field and the practical field of bioethics. So that's why I pay attention to the historical stages, and then we will recover our knowledge and recover our ideas for the changes which happen in history and the genesis of the biomedical ethics. And finally, the result of our class agenda, the result of our discussion at the second lecture will be understanding for you the bioethics as the contemporary part of the natural science and as a bridge, because the Porter, one of the founder of the idea on bioethics, he made the conclusion that bioethics became a bridge between different sciences. And such a bridge will cover two main ideas of the biomedical development and biomedical understanding of ethics. Because from one hand we have the patient nature, and from another hand we have the nature of the physician, nature of the doctor. And these two natures supposed to be in the same bridge. They have to build and cross over the troubled river with the help of such a bridge as the bioethics. So that's why the field of bioethics will get in the explanation on the way how we will come to the understanding of the transition which is going on and the ideas which will be implemented to the further development of the bioethics as the science. So let's come to the first part of our lecture agenda. Let's come to the first part of our construction of the ideas on the biomedical ethics. And first of all, we're gonna talk about the idea of the medicine. Such a word as the medicine, because it's coming from the Indo-European med, which means middle, the measure. Why it's happened that the medicine in the Latin gets such a construction? Because such a state between the measure, between the two parts, the state of healthy and the state of illness. And it represents the main idea of the medicine, it represents the main idea of the structure phenomenon. Such a phenomenon which were clear also for the parts of the ancient Greek and ancient Roman. So that's why the ancient Roman word medicine from Latin, getting the idea of such a middle position, such a mediator, as the new word comes from the modern epoch of the development of bioethics. And such a mediator will also be useful, such a vision of mediator will also be useful for biomedical ethics, because the measurements which we have for the understanding of the results and the development of the bioethics right now, we have to implement also different structural ideas, different depending on the structures of the science and structures of the scholarships which have been done in different sizes. As I have mentioned to you at the first hour lecture, also biomedical ethics come as the bridge between three main types of the sciences: natural science, humanitarian science, humanitarian disciplines, and social sciences. So such a idea of the middle, such an idea of the bridge will be one of the main image, not just of the bioethics, but as you can see at your screen, also the medicine. The medicine is coming from this Indo-European word med. The meaning of such the words is connected both with finding a means, measures of healing. Of course, from one hand, the idea of the medicine getting the inspiration for the changing of such a means, to find the way of healing, find the measures of healing. And of course, the idea of the medicine is also coming from the scriptures, coming from the description of the actually ideas which have been implemented, the vision of the medicine. And such a measures of healing, it also will be the same procedure at both levels, on the understanding of the patients and understanding of the physician. So this is why such an idea of the medicine as the finding of means will also help us to understand the specifics of biomedical ethics, because here you can see the main structure, main vision, and the main goal for the understanding of the medicine. And of course, this middle place of the medicine between natural science and human-centered, as I have mentioned to you, humanitarian disciplines and social science, human-centered knowledge. It's actually the description which get in the structural field of the science which have been implemented only in 1970s. The science which is called bioethics. That's the concentration on the rules, on the procedure which is going on the natural sciences, because we have connection between the natural science and the human-centered knowledge, human-centered disciplines like social and humanitarian, not just for the structure of bioethics, but also on other fields. But particularly, but especially, what happened to the bioethics is the designing of such a construction, designing of such a changing of the middle places between these three main types of the sciences. And the main construction of the main specific of biomedical ethics is actually laying its basis on this struggle and these changes of the middle position. Because as far as we can make the list of the problems and the natural sciences, like an environmental problem, like a problem with the changes of the climate, like problems with the global social diseases, then we will make the connection with the different social and humanitarian disciplines with getting the description of such a problem, such a problematic, such a changing. Because social sciences will help to us to concentrate on the specific research, and such a research will be based on the structuring of the society and the description of the social interconnection between social groups and interconnections of the way of big and small social grouping. Why it happened actually that this middle place of medicine and also the middle place of biomedical ethics will be described by ourselves during this course, and also will be similar in the way of the description which will happen in the future. That's because the place of the medicine between the natural sciences and human-centered knowledge, it's not just the philosophical description, it's actually the description which coming from the researches which have been done. Because not just the correct treating, as we have mentioned, the finding means and measures of healing, it's not just the correct treatment, but also the way how we from our field of the physician, from our field of a doctor, perceive the understanding of the patient, but also the way how patient have been transformed its vision over the illness, transform its vision over the treatment itself. It's also the structure, the main idea of the main specific of the biomedical ethics, because physicians, doctors, they're supposed to make the strategy of getting the patient to the more comfortable and more oriented on its recovering understanding of the biomedical and medical procedure. So contemporary medicines realizes a unique synthesis of the achievements of fundamental, which means the theorizing part, and applied branches in natural sciences, because applied branches in natural sciences provide to the contemporary medicine the whole amount of the data which represents the efficiency of the healing, which represents actually the social grouping which have been problemized with the social problems and how it's influenced the understanding the connection between the medical treatment and the way how the patients applied such a treatment. And of course the such a synthesis of the theorizing and applied achievements will provide to the medicine the way to describe the connection, to describe the future steps. The prognostic idea of the medicine also lay on this interconnection between the fundamental achievements and applied branches of the natural science. Also, medicine differs from pure natural sciences in that it works not with matter, field, or information, but it works with the personhood. And here, the word personhood is actually describing the main idea and functional point of the biomedical ethics. Because the word, such a term, such a category as the personhood have been integrated to the main genesis part of the medicine as Hippocratic Oath, as the Hippocratic Corpus, or Kant's vision on the categories, or today's Porter's vision on the bioethics. They all will cover this idea, the vision of the personhood. And that's important construction of the medicine as a natural science, because it's getting the personhood also work for the increasing of the healing. It getting their personhood actually forming the norms and the structure of the healing, which will be more efficient. Because without the applied part of the medicine, without applied part of the research, the biomedical ethics will be nil, will be negative result for the further development of the medicine. But only with such an understanding, with help of research, with help of analyzing the personhood, and it will be helpful also for the doctors, it will be helpful also for the structure of the institution, such an institution as the education, because here at the educational level we're supposed to also foresee your problems in constructing of this bridge between you as the future physician and the personhood. And at this structuring of the institution, the term personhood is one of the most important, and the way how we understand this personhood, the way how bioethics in the contemporary sense understand bioethics, that's important for the vision of the medicine and the biomedical ethics specifically. Knowledge about a person always presupposes moral dimensions, and it's important to understand that the moral dimensions is getting its nature not just from the nature of the researcher, nature of the, in our case, nature of the doctor, of the physician. It's also the dimensions which have been structured, as I told you, by the social institutions like an education or religion. So that's why the knowledge about a person is supposed to be understood through this also link between the background, between the behavior of a person, and in our case both doctoral and the patient nature of such a behavior, because such a moral dimensions will also recover the structure of the healing, the structure of the procedure which have been implemented in the medicine in the contemporary era. Throughout the history of medicine, actually many changes have occurred in medical ethics, and such changes, as I have mentioned to you, will and have been and resulted at the structure of such changes of the moral dimensions. because not just the social situation, but also inside reality, inside nature of the personhood, which also includes moral dimensions, come to resulted at the changes of the medical ethics itself, because the changes at the changes and the progress or regress of the understanding of the human being, it's actually resulted in the way how the medical ethics influence the system of the medicine generally. Of course, here at the transition period of the history, when the new epoch of the medicine come, the digital medicine, it's also will be important to understand the moral dimensions of not just the personhood, not just the personhood of the patient, but also the personhood of the doctor, personhood of the specialist. So that's why it's important right now at these researches, and especially at this contemporary stage in the history of medicine, to understand such moral dimensions, moral prejudgments on their personhood, which have been constructed, which have been resulted as the fact of the historical development, as the genesis of the medicine. The influence of paternalism and as one of the idea, as one of the structural and most important term and understanding of the way how the medical ethics is supposed to be constructed, has decreased to the same extent as we are getting the increasing of the autonomy of the human being, autonomy of the personhood. So that's why such a transition, that's why such an influence of, as our example, as the paternalism, as one of the vision on the medical ethics, is getting recovering on the interests of on the bioethics, and getting the recovering on the interests of the field of the bioethical research. We are getting, of course, not just the connection between the theorizing ethical aspects, but also we are enduring the ethical values, which includes compassion, concern, mercy, and the preservation of life as the example of the main structures of the contemporary stage of the development of bioethics. If we are talking about mercy, we're supposed to understand that it's coming from the open nature of the medicine, it's coming from the open nature of the ethical understanding on the doctor's ethical understanding on the physician. And of course, the structure, the main structure of the medicine is getting the main goal, is getting the core goal, of course, of its development on different stages, and of course, the stage of the bioethics, at the stage of the ethical values, the preservation of life. Such an idea, such an ethical value, it's also the result of the development of genesis, the result of changes which happened at the history of the human being, at the history of human society. Such an example as Nazi Germany, such an example as the destructive methods of healing at the Nazi camps, they are actually getting concentration camps, they are getting to the idea that the preservation of life is supposed not just to be mentioned for the philosophical terms, it's supposed to be mentioned also in the terms of the judicial question, in terms of the acts which have been adopted by level of the international community and also by the level of the government. Such a representation of the medical ethics, such a representation of the ethical values at the contemporary international law provides to you the construction, provides to us the vision that the biomedical ethics influence actually such a structural phenomenon as the legal ethics. So that's why such a term as such a vision of as the preservation of life, that's like also the bridge. Also, we are coming to the same idea, the bridge between different sciences. And here, the preservation of life, it's like a bridge between the structuring of the social functions of the jurisprudence, social functions of the law, and also the structures of the medicine itself. We should understand, you should make an idea at your mind that it's this list of the values that are central and decisive for the professional medical morality. It's not limited one. They're also just making the main description of the medical morality, but they are getting just the turning point for the changing of the understanding of the ethical values. So that's why such a professional medical morality is the result of the structural changes which is coming from the understanding of the biomedical ethics. They will also supposed to be, as I have mentioned to you at our first meeting, they're supposed to be discovered, and they're supposed to be influential for your attitude towards the research, for your attitude towards the connection within your community, within your professional community. Because the professional community provides the problems of the morality and describe the problems of the morality on different practical fields, on different understanding, which we also try to let's say make the first glimpse of that understanding through our further discussion, through our further communication during the practical classes and lecture. To the fundamental features of professional medical morality, the science which is called bioethics, the science in generally includes its universal, supranational, and the universally adopted character. Such a thing as universally adopted or supranational, as I have mentioned to you, it's the result of the changes which happened in the society. And such a vision of supranational, such a vision as universal character of the character of the ethics, it's were first adopted, first visioned by the Immanuel Kant in his idea of universal categories. But right now, such a state of international development of international law, such a stage in the development of the international organization which have been related with the medicine, which have been related with the social diseases, they provide the vision of this supernatural universal character of the ethics to the practical field. Professionals in the field of the medicine, professionals in the field particularly of the biomedical ethics, must strive for excellence, and we have been discussing this question at our first lecture, because I have pointed out to you that the communication, that the relationship inside the professional community is one of the most important for the excellence. Of course, here at this communication, at the functioning communication of the biomedical ethics, we are spreading the knowledge, and this sharing of the ideas and sharing of the knowledge which have been done by other people, which have been done by the other professionals, will help you to strive to increase the level of the excellence at your particular field. For sure, as far as such a communication is supposed to be done with the same language, it's important to you also to understand the vision and increasing level of level of the communication, and so that's why there are different types of the communicational procedure, not just through the conference, not just through the symposium, but also online procedure of the communication, which is also important. I guess you will have such an experience of the excellence of your knowledge, and this also will be the further step in the development of actually biomedical ethics, to describe and to implement the way how the personhood supposed to influence these digital communications, supposed to re-implement the knowledge which have been done through the digital communication to its own perception, to its own nature, and to its own actually moral principles. And it's important for the further understanding of the biomedical ethics and its specifics, because it's very descriptive point, it's very important point for the further development of bioethics. Also, they have in their hands the most valued things which people have. That's life and health, and it's important that their duty is to do best for them. So that's why such an excellency, such an increasing of the knowledge, such an increasing of the professionalism, that's not just the result of the your inside inspiration, your inside natural phenomenon, but also it influences the outside world, it's influenced the outside social relations. And so that's why the biomedical ethics get its also specifics in function, and it influences the professionals to striving for the excellence. So we have to come to the following conclusion through our discussion. First of all, we supposed to understand that the meaning of medicine not just as the phrase, not just as the part of the Latin language, not just as the part of the general in the European language as med. It's coming from the mediating. It's coming from the mediating part on the both senses, as the part of the connection between patient and the doctor, and also as the mediating part on the on the three levels, on the three types of the science, or the three types of the modern science itself. Of course, the second idea, the second conclusion which we're supposed to understand and implement to our further discussion, that enduring ethical values in practice and vision of the health and vision of the nature, of the natural phenomenon of the physician and the patient. And it's important that ethical values will help you to increase the vision of the personhood.